Hey peeps, it's Andrakon. I'm still working on my house, and it's gonna take a while. And I figured I'd probably just blab at you to death some more. Enjoy! So, for the lack of a whole hell of a lot else to talk about, I'll go ahead and talk about my past, my history. Some of you guys probably might find some of this interesting and useful, because well, I'm 28, and a lot of you guys, a lot of my viewers are a bit on the younger side. Some of them are teenagers, some of them are older than teenagers, like, older than me even. But a lot of the younger guys and gals will probably want to hear a little bit about some of the things I've done or had to go through when I was younger. Uh, Specifically, things like, when you first get out on your own, or, the challenges like that. Because there's a lot of things that school doesn't teach you that they probably should, at least in the United States. And it's quite the train wreck, I guarantee it. So, onward and forward. Let's see, hold on. Shortly. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Hey, Wolfie. Um, so, when I first got out of school back in 2003 or so, I actually started living with. I actually got kicked out of my house, my home. My parents kicked me out. So I kind of had to, find some emergency arrangements. I had a girlfriend at the time from high school and such, and this was like right after school ended, and we were still seeing each other. And this was like, this wasn't even my senior year. This was the year before. I was still in high school and I got kicked out of my house. My parents, jeez. But so I ended up staying with my girlfriend and her parents for a little while, and they had a trailer on the hill, and we cleaned that thing out a bit, and we moved into that, just me and her. And I've been living with her ever since, so I'm actually still with my high school sweetheart, which is awesome. We met in 11th grade, so I screwed part of this up, didn't I? Yes, I did. Both of these are screwed up. Great. Alright, well, that's what I get for talking while I try to do this. But, yeah, it was quite the challenge. So, here I was, still in high school. Actually, it was towards the end of that year. Hold on, let me think. I think I got kicked out at the very end of my senior year. Yeah. Okay, that's it. So, like, right before school ended that year, I got kicked out. And so I had to go find a job. I ended up working security guard work. It wasn't too bad, to be honest, but at least at first. And I had to, still do stuff at home. I had to learn how to cook because my wife couldn't cook at all. And I ended up being the cook. So, yep, I like cooking nowadays. And try not to burn the house down with the oven, that's for sure. I don't know how many pizzas I burnt into a black frisbee. Quite a few, I'll tell you that. So, yeah, if you ever get the chance, if you guys haven't moved out yet, try to get your parents to at least teach you a little bit about how to cook before you leave, so you at least know how to use a measuring cup in the oven and stuff like that. And I definitely recommend, learning how to doing your own clothes, because I had to do that too for the first time. So those are useful skills, to be honest. Things you'll use for the rest of your life, even though you probably would hate doing them. Let's see. Other things were, don't trust the banks. This is something I learned from myself. Now, a lot of you guys probably won't have any trouble with this. A lot of you guys probably say, oh, well, I've never had any trouble with my bank. Well, I've lost a lot of money from my banks. The big problem is I'm too damn lazy to balance a checkbook is the big problem. So if you are too, don't rely on them to balance your checkbook for you, because, like, say I put in like $800 into my bank account on, say, sometime during the weekend, and I've got bills to pay, And so I go ahead and write those checks or use that that debit card right then. Well, a lot of the times the banks won't stick your money right into your account right away. Sometimes, if you got a really crappy bank, they'll wait like a week before they decide to put something in there, even if it should have been in there right away. So my problem was I kept on having trouble with, I go to pay my bill or use my card, and my money is supposed to be in there, and they just keep on, sticking the money in the account and then pulling it back out, and then sticking it back in and pulling it back out, or they'll post my payment and then post that I put money in, and if I pay something first and my balance ran out to zero, and then they put the money in, I still got a overcharge. So I kept on getting ripped off from overcharges over and over and over. And I said, screw it. I ended up stop using. I haven't had a bank account in years now. I ain't getting my money. Bastards, give me my money back. Crap, goddamn banks suck balls. But anyway, instead, if you don't want to use a bank, instead, there's a couple other good things you can use. For instance, if you go to most grocery stores, any place that has, say, a Western Union, you can get what's called a money order, and you can use that to pay bills if you got to pay bills. It's basically like a check, except you pay the money for the check first, and they give you this paper check, and you gotta just fill it out and mail it. And that way you don't have to have a checking account. I've been using that for years, and it works great. If you want to use online purchases, get like something called a green dot card or a prepaid money card. Those work wonders. And if I have checks, I just go to, say, like a grocery store or something and have them cash it, and they usually do it as long as it's not several $1,000s. So, not a problem. Let's see, other things that were useful. Well, to be honest, when it comes to your finances, that's probably one of the biggest things that you're going to have trouble with. That's where most people have grief. Other things are a job. I've had so many different jobs, just trying out different things in different fields. Because I used to be in the military a long time ago, they actually gave me generator repair training, more or less. So I learned how to work on generators. I only ever had a job in the field once, and I hated it. Mostly because at the time I lived in Tennessee, and everybody I met down there that I had to work with in the field anyway were assholes. So, if you are in, say, a grease monkey field or something to do with mechanics, not everybody, well, I hope you don't care to deal with a really professional person, because most of them aren't going to be very professional. So that actually caused me, after I worked at that job, and that was a good paying job, it was like $15 an hour just starting out, I ended up going into clerical work, and it hasn't been too bad doing clerical. I'm not doing it right now exactly. I'm kind of doing something sort of data management related, but the office jobs, the people there tend to be a lot more professional. Of course, you could also say some of them may tend to be more stuck up, but I just ignore that because I don't really care. But so I've lived in a bunch of different areas too. Let's see, grew up in Ohio, currently living in West Virginia, but I've lived in Tennessee and North Carolina as well. I lived in Nashville for a while, and too bad I missed Joe Hills. Oh well. If I would have met him, I probably would have stayed. He's pretty awesome. But let's see, where are we at? Yeah, things are different in every different area you live in. So like the people will be different, the culture will be a little different. So usually if you grew up in a specific area and you're used to its culture, there's nothing wrong with staying there, and that's pretty much what I ended up doing. Ended up moving back to where I was from, just because I was used to the people and the way things were here, and I didn't care for the way they were in other places. But that's just me. I mean, you might like a big change. For instance, I lived in Tennessee. Traffic was terrible. The people were hit and miss, to be honest. It really depended. If you lived in a... Well, even the places that were supposed to be, say, professional apartments, I had my next door neighbor pretty much hit on my wife and asked her to be her secret lover. The things people do behind your back. Crazy ass SOB. He asked her to come in the apartment to work on a computer because we're like IT people, something like that. We fix computers sometimes, and don't ask me for IT help. I'm out of the field. I don't do it anymore. But yeah, he used that as a way to try to get her, well, pretty much get in her pants. Geez, some people are just sleazy. But see, now when I lived in North Carolina, everybody was very much more professional. And you could say that's an improvement in a way, or you could say that's a bad thing. It really depends. My wife didn't always dress, say, normal, you'd say down there. She liked to wear whatever, like street clothes, or sometimes she'd wear black or something. I'd say there's a problem if somebody, or repeatedly a whole bunch of different people, walk up to you when you're not doing anything and just accuse you of, worshiping the devil just because you wear black. There's something wrong. Not necessarily with you, maybe the area. But, I never had any personal problems down there myself. I was living in Cary, North Carolina, and it was a very professional area. And everybody I seemed to deal with was very nice. Some of them seemed to be very full of themselves, but, it's just what you happen to run into sometimes. But that's that. Where I live here, yeah, there's plenty of hicks in West Virginia. I live kind of close to Ohio still, so there's still what I would consider a lot of normal people too, or a huge blend of both. But people here keep to themselves, and I honestly really like that. Less headache, less drama. I barely even know my neighbors. And the ones I do know, they're nice enough. I mean, people here don't bother you. They don't try to bother you, usually. Except that one guy that tried to, well, he pretty much stole the money off of me for mowing my lawn. He didn't mow my lawn. Paid him $15 to mow my lawn. He didn't mow it. Pay first. Well, no, pay second. Make sure the person does their work first. Another tip of life. Jeez. So, alright, what else? Now, see, I'm now 28. I still remember my high school days pretty well. My high school days and middle school days really sucked. The biggest problem was I was so smart that I could realize that the teachers were just giving me busy bullshit work, pretty much, and more or less babysitting more than teaching. And I decided, I didn't want to do any work anymore. That was a problem. So for like an entire year, I think it was actually I started this in third, but I ended up doing it again in sixth. I didn't do any schoolwork the entire time. Like, I did a little bit, like just enough to pass, more or less. But oftentimes I just wouldn't do the schoolwork. Now, it's not because I was stupid in any way. It's just because what really tipped it off when I was in third grade. I came into school that morning, and they just handed all the kids a whole bunch of sheets of paper to color on, basically. I mean, sure, there's nothing wrong with coloring or something, but for some weird reason, at that point in time, since they did that like every day, I just came to realize that I was being babysat instead of being taught, and I didn't like it. So I just decided, no, I don't really feel like coloring, I don't really feel like doing anything. I didn't do anything for a long time. For like a couple weeks, I didn't do any schoolwork. Of course, when I did that again later, well, actually, I ended up getting kicked out of that school and going to a private school because of it, to be honest. They didn't, after about 3 months of doing that, I did not do any schoolwork at all for like 3 months straight. I got transferred to a private school. Well, pretty much because they were going to kick me out anyway. So it was either transfer or get kicked out. So whatever. I transferred. It was some Christian school or something. I'm not exactly Christian anymore, and I don't have anything against any religion, and I'm not going to go into religion. I avoid conflict, and that often has conflict. So anyway, it wasn't too bad of a school. It was one of those wee little dinky schools with 20 people in the entire school. So different. It was interesting. I literally had one other person in my grade, basically, and we were all sharing one room the entire school. So it was pretty different experience there for a little while. I didn't stay there. I was only there for 3 years, and then I went back to the school I ended up getting kicked out of, or almost got kicked out of. But there's not a huge difference between a public and a private school, but there is a difference for sure. For instance, being in third grade, right off the bat, they had me doing advanced English stuff. You know how the teachers would stick, if you're in an English class, teachers would put a bunch of proofreading marks all over your paper, and you might not really know what a lot of those are. I got taught what all those were and got taught how to proofread very closely in third grade, and I don't know how many hours, days, months I spent on doing that too. It sucked, but I ended up learning all that stuff, a long time ago. And that stuff, at least my particular public school, hadn't even touched on at the time. So I don't know. Some people would say that it's superior, and some people might say it's not. Some of it was, some of it wasn't. The science was not as much. It really sucked because I really loved science class. One mean-looking zombie. Okay. And but the English specifically, they spent a lot of time on, but for some weird reason, I never got it stuck in my head what a pronoun and a noun and all this other stuff is. But I can proofread and write like mad. Like when I actually took a college course later, a few years ago, I usually had people compliment me on my writing. Of course, any other time, like if I wrote something on the internet, I sometimes had got compliments on my writing just because it was so good. To be honest, I think that had more to do with I was quite the bookworm for some time. So I can't remember what year it was. Probably 9th, 10th grade, something like that. So I was probably 16, 15, 14, something like that. I spent a lot of time at the library getting books, checking books out. Spent an entire summer playing nothing but I only did 2 things an entire summer break. That was read books and play Total Annihilation. I don't know if you guys ever played that. It's an old game, and I loved the hell out of it. It's a bit of a strategy game. So what am I after? Stairs. Okay. And so there was quite a few different series of books I really spent a lot of time reading. Like, I read all the Redwall books that were out at the time. This was a long time ago. So probably like 15 different Redwall books, Redwall series. And of course, there's a whole bunch of science fiction books I read at the time. I was really big into the science fiction stuff. Who knows what they were, to be honest. There weren't any like the really popular things, except the Lord of the Rings series. Of course, you guys definitely would know that now from the movies, but for the longest time, there was only like a couple cartoon movies made of that. And that book series is old as heck. I don't even know how old, really. I mean, 60s, 70s, something like that. It was originally written by, it was J.R. Tolkien, I think that's his name. I'm probably a little off, but I read like The Hobbit and Lord of the Rings books probably like 8 or 9 times total. I love that series. And so, I knew everything that was going to go on in the movie before it happened. Now, to be honest, and to their credit, that movie on that series is fairly accurate. They did not cut a whole lot out. Nothing very important at all. I mean, sure, they might have sped some of it up a nudge just to make sure they got it all in there, but they didn't really miss much. The only thing I can think of that they probably sped up too much, in my opinion, was when they were in the Dwarven mines area, where Frodo got almost got skewered by a giant ogre. That honestly was kind of a longer, slower paced area for the most part, until they got found out. But anyway, not everybody's into that sort of thing, so I'll change subject. Let's see, what else? What could I talk about? School sucked. School always sucks. It's pretty much a fact of life. Okay, here's something important that happened. When I was in school, I noticed something wrong about me. I was in a horrible, sour mood for years. Because I just seemed to hate everybody and hate the world, basically. And I decided, I noticed when I would just sit there and talk about bad things all the time because everything sucked. So everybody I was around, I would just vent with, basically. I'd talk about everything that was going wrong. Well, it seemed that basically reinforced that everything was going wrong. Like, I'm in a bad mood, I talk to a friend, and I accidentally get them in a bad mood too, because they have to sit there and listen to me. Well, that's not very nice. Not a good thing to do to somebody, especially a friend. I was doing it all the time. So I decided, I'm going to stop doing that so much. I'm going to try to avoid talking about bad things at all costs as much as I can. And boy, did it ever help. I mean, holy crap. Just in 1 year, it seemed like my life completely turned around. I mean, sure, school still sucked. It's a guaranteed fact. It's going to happen. But it wasn't so bad. I mean, it just didn't seem too bad anymore for whatever reason. Like, all the friends I had, I just talked to them normal and try my best to just stay positive about everything. And, they were in a better mood, and therefore, because I wasn't talking about bad stuff too, I was in a better mood too. So it was quite a bit awesome. It made my school life a lot better, except the school bus. That was horrible. But, just a little bit of, trying to stay positive yourself because it affects the people around you is a huge, awesome tip of doom. Seriously. I found it out on my own, but what you do and say around others affects them. And a lot of people don't realize that. Like, I've met a lot of people that are ancient as hell, like still in their 60s or 50s or 40s. And they just talk about the negative stuff all the time, and everybody around them just ends up in a bad mood because of it. And, you don't want to be stuck in a bad mood all the time, do you? Wouldn't you like to enjoy life as much as you can? Yeah, it's probably better to be in a good mood, even if you gotta fake it for a while until you get used to it. So, I just, avoided talking about the bad stuff. Another thing I learned at the same time, or around that time, was, have you ever noticed that there's a lot of gossip in schools? You ever notice what that does, basically, to you or the people you gossip about? It's not good. For instance, you start talking about somebody behind their back, and they end up finding out later, and it's no good. You end up having a rivalry or something, or an enemy. Or even if they don't find out about it, you talk to their friends about it, or it gets back to their friends about it. And you can ruin somebody's reputation even if they didn't do anything wrong. And that's not, nice to do. Wouldn't it be better to have friends rather than enemies? I mean, I So I've realized that, I won't talk about somebody else as best as I can, and it's stuck. I haven't talked about anybody any longer than like a few minutes, only because somebody else brought it up, and I try to end the conversation quick. And since I haven't had hardly any enemies, and I've had a lot better time at, say, workplaces or school or anything like that. And, the people I talk to are usually, once again, in a better mood because I'm not talking about bad crap again. So I completely eliminated gossip from my conversation list. I don't talk about other people. As much as I can, anyway. I try my best to avoid it. And, I feel like I'm I feel better for it, to be honest. Yes, it completely destroys your conversations sometimes because for the longest time I didn't know what to talk about. But, I'd say it was well worth it, to be honest. So, I may have had a lot of times when I was still in high school and I didn't know what to talk about anymore because of that, and because of the lack of bad stuff to talk about. But, if you do that long enough, you'll eventually find other things to talk about. And, see, that also brings up another weird subject that's somewhat related. Now, a lot of people, especially these days, I noticed, and this is probably going to be like, there's this old fart talking about cell phones and crap again. A lot of the kids these days, and I'm not going to bash you for it exactly, I'll just point a few things out. A lot of people these days, not just the kids, spend a lot of times on the cell phone, and there's nothing wrong with cell phones, but they'll talk more on the cell phone than they will in real life. And for instance, you'll talk to your friends and stuff on the cell phone, or you have some really good texting buddies, and then you meet face to face and you can't hardly talk to them for whatever reason. Not everybody's like that, but some of the kids are. That's because you ain't got social skills. That's one of the unfortunate problems of texting. If you communicate with one medium, in other words, text all the time, you don't necessarily learn how to talk to somebody anymore. And I'm not going to say I didn't have that problem at some point, because I used to be extremely antisocial. I couldn't talk for crap. I even had a time where I didn't talk for so long. When I started again, I was stuttering because I couldn't hardly form the words. And, that was pretty horrible. It's like, even with any skill at all, just freaking talking, for crying out loud. If you don't use it, you'll probably lose it eventually. But one of the reasons why I started LPing was specifically so I could get good at talking again. And if you hadn't noticed in this video and the last, it's worked. I'm able to talk pretty good. And, of course, I don't always pronunciate all my words the best. I can work on that, stuff like that. But at least I can keep a conversation going. And part of that, honestly, is because my wife. She is basically, I don't know if this word actually exists, but I'm going to use it anyway, a talkaholic. At least she was when I first met her. You pretty much couldn't get her to stop talking ever. And, it's been like that quite a long time. She just sit there and talk to you for hours on end. Even if you didn't say anything, you didn't have to even add to the conversation. She would just sit there and talk for a long, long time. At least that's the way it was since, when I first met her. And, it's not so much now because I've been with her for 9 years. We still talk a lot, but not, to that extent. But, she had quite a lot of social skills, strangely enough. She was talking all the time. And her being with me, I was a complete recluse, didn't talk to anybody ever, hardly, if I can help it. She was a big help. Somebody to talk to, strangely enough. So, it's nice to have somebody to talk to. It always is. So, where was I going? Crap, I can't remember. Here's a little something else. I guess this is going to be one of those tips of growing up and the tip of life episodes. You feel free to skip. But, when I first started working, it was quite the shock in a way. One thing that the military strangely helped out on was giving me a bit of a work ethic, uh, which pretty much means I was willing to do what I needed to do to get the job done. Didn't really care quite so much about how many hours I had to put into it. But this was mostly just because I went through freaking basic training, and after you go through that crap, almost anything else is like a breeze. But work ethic really will impress employers massively. If you take initiative to get something done, basically, they really like it. See, I want this thing about yay high. That will probably work more or less. And the reason why I'm using half slab thingies on this, at least I hope it works right, is so nothing spawns on it. But, yeah. Alright, okay, now I remember. Now, I actually had a lot of compliments for some of my employers, even my crappy ones, that they were impressed with my general work ethic, just because I honestly, when I go to do a job and I'm getting paid for it, I usually try my very best to do it. Even if I don't like the job or like the people I'm working for. So any of the times I had jobs I didn't even care for, I still tried my best to do them as best as I could, even if they weren't really, worthy of, my effort. Mostly because of the money, and because I agreed to do the job for the paycheck, basically. It's just the way I was, honest, pretty much. Just that, being fairly honest with a job or an employer, it can be a good thing. Now, honestly, you'll have to make sacrifices for employers, and honestly, most employers ask way too damn much, in my opinion. It's mostly one of the big reasons why I'm trying to rely more on making videos now than working, because I like it better. Other things are try to get a hold of a job you like doing or in a field you like doing. Even if you have to have a crappy job you don't like for a while, at least sometimes look around and try to find a job that you really like. If you can ever find at least your long-term permanent job, and it's something you really like doing, oh, are you ever lucky? Because most people end up just sticking with a job that pays, even if they hate it. And I don't really recommend putting yourself through that sort of personal hell, but that's just me. I prefer to keep my life simple, easy, going good. Now, generally related are where I live, very few jobs pay very well. And that's not really a problem where I live because most things aren't that expensive here. Like, of course, I make some sacrifices for it to keep it that way. For instance, I don't have cable television, but that's just my own personal preference. I'm usually playing the computer more. Besides, these days with things like Hulu or YouTube, different movie sites, things like that, you don't really need to have cable TV, in my opinion, anymore, because it's just overpriced crap. You're paying like $120 some a month for cable TV and cable internet. I do still pay about 50 some bucks or so a month for cable internet, and I do like my internet. But just trying to save some money, and it helps me get by. Another thing is when I was still in my early 20s, cell phones costed arms and legs to run. Like, a cell phone bill would be like 150 bucks, or at least 120. And if your carrier is charging you that much, well, you're getting screwed, really. My current thing is I'm using a cell phone. Well, I honestly recommend prepaid cell phones unless you're using it constantly, but I don't use mine constantly. I just use mine sparingly. So I usually don't like to be called or contacted. I don't have a whole lot of friends to talk to, nor do I really care to have a whole lot of real life friends, but that's just me. I barely talk on a cell phone. I barely use a cell phone for anything. For the longest time, I didn't even have a cell phone. For years, I didn't actually have a cell phone until literally last year. Um, well, I had one earlier, but I didn't have one for like 6 years time span. Because they're too expensive, man. I just used like Skype and got a hold of like a $20 a year thing so I could call landlines and be called by landlines and stuff. So, if you look around hard enough, you can find really cheap alternatives for phones and stuff. Currently, honestly, I think prepaid phones work great for me because, like, they're super cheap. I'd add, like, the particular thing I've got is, I got a special deal with my phone. If you can get these at certain grocery stores, for instance, Kroger. I got a deal with Kroger that if I buy $100 of groceries at Kroger, they put 20 or 30 minutes on my cell phone. And because I shop exclusively there, pretty much, I don't need to put any minutes on that cell phone ever, pretty much. Now, every 3 months or so, I got to add like $10 to the balance, just to make sure they keep my minutes and stuff. But that's it. Pretty much, I go shopping, I get free minutes, and I pay like $10 every 3 months. So, yay! And, I've never ran out of minutes on that thing. So, that's a great deal for anybody that's interested. Let's see, what else? Well, those two are the biggest cost savings I've ever found in my life. Holy crap! That was a skeletal horse. What the hell do you want? Go away. Scary damn thing trying to kill me. Holy crap. Alright, let's take care of this thing. You gonna graze on the grass while you're in the middle of killing me? I'm pretty sure you're a bit too thin. The grass ain't gonna matter anymore. Alright. So, somewhere around here I may actually put a door, like right here. So, let me go ahead and pop some of this stuff off and just leave this open for the moment until I stick a door here. Okay. So, let's see. Other interesting things is don't get stuck in something called Jones's disease. This thing was rampant when I was living in North Carolina. We had people that were making, say, $60,000 a year, and they would buy a $100 or like $200,000 house that they would never be able to pay off because they got a giant loan of doom on the thing. I don't recommend taking a loan out for something like that expensive. It's ridiculous. Nowadays, a lot of those people actually ended up losing their homes because a lot of them ended up losing their jobs just because the economy went to crap. And most of those people just could no longer pay their mortgage, pretty much. I am currently in a house that costed all of, including new roof, $16,000. Yes, the place was a little bit of rundown when I got it, but I've been fixing the place up. And the place I live in actually had water damage. It had a leaky roof. What happened was the last owner of the place took out like a $60,000 loan on the house, basically. Took the money and ran. He bought a new house with it. And the bank repossessed this house. And because nobody lived in it for about 2 years, and it was old. This place was built in 1910. Ended up getting a leaky roof. That caused a bit of water damage, a little bit of mold here and there. And I already put that up there. Nobody wanted to buy the place. Nobody. So here we come 2 years after it's been, foreclosed upon. And the bank wants to get rid of it. And we offer, the house itself was like, they were asking 20-some thousand bucks for the place. And we offered freaking $8,000. and they took it. And the rest between, actually, they end up saying 9, and we went for 9. So the place cost us $9,000, and the rest of that $16,000 was for new plumbing because the plumbing busted out of it, and a new roof. And the contractor sucked balls, and I end up having one spot with a leak, and end up suing them because they refused to fix it, and end up winning like $1,000, which was nice. So watch your contractors like a hawk, because they suck. Just default. They all almost all suck. But yeah, freaking $16,000 for a house. Now I'm still paying on it. Not much. I got it half paid off. The thing will be paid off in another 2.5 years. And I got a 2-story, 1,700 square foot house built in 1910. Now the place, some of it's been remodeled more than once. A bit of it looks like it's out of the 70s. The upstairs I had to mostly redo. I'm currently in the upstairs bedroom, and I had to put a new ceiling in this room. And see, a lot of the place has got old carpets in it and stuff. Actually, one of the rooms, my actual office that I was recording in, had a huge hole in its ceiling, and at one time you could see through a hole into the roof before they fixed the roof. I ended up patching up the ceiling in there too. So yeah, this place has been through some dire straits, but it's honestly not doing too bad nowadays. Everything works, everything's livable. I still need to do work on, say, the hallway. It doesn't have much of a ceiling in it yet. But I'm not too afraid to do a bit of work myself. So huge savings, and I got a big house. Yay! So, if you look around and try hard to find it, you can find good stuff for cheap. Speaking of which, my parents have always said it was a gigantic mistake to buy a brand new car. I'm saying brand new, straight off the lot, never been owned by anybody else. Now, it's not so bad of a deal if you buy a car that's been owned once, and pretty much the way the prices of the cars go, you buy a car, you drive it off the lot, it instantly is worth, like, say, less, about a third less, just because you bought it and drove it once. Yeah, if somebody else decides that they just bought one of those sort of cars and they don't want it anymore, it's only got, say, 40,000 miles on it, it's worth far less, but far cheaper for you if you want it. So, but of course, even then, you can get better deals than that. Like around here, you can get some old crappy cars for cheap. I've owned some of those. They sucked. But to be honest, around here anyway, about $3,000 or $4,000 to get you a decent used car. A lot of places won't. A lot of places are even cheaper than that. It really depends on where you're at. But some of my first cars, like my first car, my dad bought and gave me. I kind of like that car. It was some old... Let me think about what that was. I can't even remember. It's been so long. Thing broke down. I ended up selling it to my brother for $25 because he needed a crappy car. But let's see. Most of the time, I'm not going to pay any more than $3,000 for a car anyway. And I usually end up with a decent car for that, at least around here. So, going in huge debt for a brand new car, not a good idea. Debt is your enemy. Debt will kill you. Well, or at least kill your wallet, make your life miserable. Try to avoid debt at all costs. It is usually the thing that destroys more lives than anything else. So, oh yeah. Related, credit cards. Try your best to never have a credit card. That's definitely what I'll say about that. I ended up having a credit card with like a couple $1,000 limit on the thing. Never paid the thing off, ever. Like, I ended up getting into a bit of a pickle, and had to basically max the thing out, and was never able to pay the thing off, ever. I ended up moving away and forgetting about it intentionally. Never paid the thing off, never going to either, and decided never to have credit cards again, because those things are a freaking trap. Now, I know if you're in college, there's going to be a whole bunch of you'll start getting a whole bunch of offers or something as soon as you're eligible age or something, like 18 or something. They're a trap, huge trap. They will take your money. Pretty much the idea is you borrow, say, $10, and if you only pay the balance, like the minimum monthly balance on that, that's basically a coverage free for borrowing the money. If you let's just say you've got like $100, and the coverage fee for that is like $10 a month. You keep paying $10 a month. You will never pay that off. It will just sit there and be $1,000 that you owe, and you pay $10 a month. And over 10 months, well, you just gave them $100, and it just keeps going. That's pretty much the way the credit cards go. Unless you pay off your balance that month that you put your money in it, took the money out of, you're pretty much just getting ripped. So I don't have a credit card. I don't think I ever will have a credit card again. So yeah. Alright, well, that's pretty much my advice for the day. What else should we talk about? I don't know. I'll figure something else out later. Well, guys, I don't know how long this video has been. Probably long enough. And I'm just building and blabbing and stuff. So I'm going to keep working on this, probably mostly off camera. If I got any really interesting bits, I'll do something with them. I might show them, but I don't know. There isn't really much more interesting bits until I got the place finished, to be honest. So guys, it's been another video. Hope you enjoyed some life lessons with Andrakon. I'm an old man. I guess not. I'm still young. Still young. Without my cane walker. Well, guys, see you later. Have fun. Bye.